This time I want to show you an interesting way you can take advantage of the great linking you can do back and forth between Photoshop and Illustrator. Now I'm, as you can see, using Photoshop CS3 because that's what I happen to have open, but this will work equally well, of course, with Photoshop CS2 and Illustrator CS2. And all I want to do is take advantage of Illustrator's ability to trace things using live trace. So I'm going to switch over to Illustrator. I just wanted to show you my original photo, but I'm going to use the place command to place in that exact photo. Now it's important that you have the link button checked in the place dialog box. Go ahead and place that in there. And there's my photograph, and it's already selected. I'm going to use the live trace command, and I'm just going to sort of guess and say, oh, let's try using one of the built-in ones, which is 6 colors, and it will go through its tracing procedure. And that's not bad, but I'm not sure if I like it or not. So a couple things I want to try. First of all, I'm looking at this, I'm thinking that the tracing it's done is okay, but it's a little too harsh in some areas, so I'd like to try something. Remember, live trace is currently live, so in other words, if I change the photo, it'll update. So in the links palette, I can click on Edit Original, it'll come right back to Photoshop. Here's my original photo. So let's duplicate the background layer, Command or Control J, and let's do something like surface blur, which will really, of course, make almost less colors because we'll have just sort of a blurred copy. Maybe not quite so much. Let's reduce it down just a bit. Something like that. So now we have something that looks just a little different. Let me show you the difference. See, there's just a little less detail in there. So I'll save that. And if I switch back to Illustrator, because it's a live link, it will say, you know what, something's changed. When I click yes to modify the link, it will also then retrace it because it is live trace. Now in this case it traced it in a way that looks really bad for some reason. So that's okay. I can just update the number of colors and trace it again. Maybe we'll do even a few more, just like 16. And this is the beauty of live trace, of course, is you can experiment each time you try a different color setting. That looks pretty. I like the look of that. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm now going to copy this, switch back to Photoshop, and paste. And I'm going to paste it as a smart object. So that will also create a link the other way. So here's my smart object in Photoshop. Let me move my layers palette so you can see it a little more clearly. There it is there. So let's do something like change the blend mode to overlay. So that's giving a pretty nice dramatic effect, but again, it doesn't stop here, because if I want to experiment further, because this is a smart object, I simply double click on the smart object, which will of course take me back to Illustrator. It will update the live trace. Let me move it so you can see it. So now, for example, I could say, well, let's try if I did 25 colors. So we'll do that. It'll update the live trace. And I say, okay, I like that, so I'll save it. Switch back to Photoshop. And of course, because it's a smart object now, it's going to update that too. And you'll see that it has updated. Now, it's a pretty subtle change in this case because I'm in overlay mode, but if I change it back to normal, you'll see that the image has updated. So that's just touching the surface. So I think you can see how you can get some pretty interesting two-way streets as long as you do a link from Photoshop to Illustrator, keep it as live trace, don't expand it, and then copy and paste to make a smart object in Photoshop. Pretty cool two-way street. Of course, like lots of things, it all depends on the settings you use. Here I have a photo of this guy, and I'm going to paste my Illustrator trace as a smart object. Okay, which is kind of a bad smart object because of the bad live trace, but hey, you never know what you might end up with. If you keep trying things and experimenting, you may end up with something that just looks the same, or weird. So go forth and experiment, will you? I'm Dave Gross. We'll see you next time.